Good morning, everybody. So my name is Ho Kyung Chun. I'm professor in civil and environmental engineering UTS. Also, I'm leading the ASC nutrient in a circular economy. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Euro nation upon whose ancestral land our city campus now stands. So we would like to pay respect to the elders, both past, present, acknowledging them as the traditional coastal knowledge for this land. So before I start, just a simple our housekeeping notice. So in case of the emergency, so please follow the instruction of the warden. So you can also utilize the exit in this door in the front here. So you can go to the your exit side. Also you can go this side door and then turn right. So you can have a good instruction. Program can be downloaded from your QR code on your name tag. So you can see your name tag at the behind. So we have a very generous our sponsor, AS Nice Hub, Office of Chief Scientist and Engineer, Sydney Water, Circular Australia, IMM Consulting, Food Recycle, and YES. Also you can have this QR code. So anytime you can get your program. Also, we have 3 rooms: the Broadway Room 1, and Broadway, the John Street, the Room 2, and Room 3 is Harris. So we can utilize these 3 rooms. So you can have a room 1, 2, 3. So you can follow your program, which room is the Broadway, Jones, Harris. Also, we have a circular award ceremony during the gala dinner with the same venue here. So you can come back around 6 o'clock. So we can have a nice event. And technical tours, so making sure that you have a long pants, sleeves, and closed shoes. So we have 3 different technical tours. So you can enjoy your technical tour with this basic requirement. Also Wi-Fi, you can get the password from the monitor outside. So it's already given your Wi-Fi password. So distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a great honor to welcome you on this year's Circular Economy for Climate and Environment. So this gathering today brings together some of the brightest minds, innovators, and leaders to address our one of the most pressing issues of our time. So how to integrate sustainability into every aspect of our economy to combat climate change. As we look ahead, the circular economy offers us a powerful framework to reimagine how to produce, consume, dispose of our resources that prioritize the environmental health and resilience. So CEO Lisa McLean, she's here, and she reported that this circular economy will provide $210 billion of the Australian GDP and 50,000 new job opportunity over the next 2 decades. So we do have to do something. We know that transforming our global systems requires collaboration, fresh ideas, and most importantly, our actions. So the conference provides unique platforms for such a collaboration where we can share groundbreaking research, innovative technologies, and best practice from around the world. So we have a lot of delegates here. So they will present different research topics: water, waste, biogas, renewable energy. So how we can try to design for circular economic concept. So which one of us here has a role to play in driving change for a sustainable future? So I would like to thank you, each one of you, to join this conference. Also, especially I'd like to thank you for our co-chairs, Lisa McLean, Django Secom, also Associate Professor Cheryl Kunju. Also we have organizing committee members, also volunteers. Also a lot of people engaged to prepare and arrange this wonderful opportunity to everybody. And let us this opportunity to not only learning from one another, but also inspire new strategy and create the partnership that will accelerate the progress in our community and around the world. Thank you again, and I wish you a productive and inspiring conference. Thank you very much. So next opening is from our CEO Lisa McLean. So she will give an opening speech. Please.
Thanks, Sean. And it's great to see you all here today, and our other co-hosts with Sydney Water and other organisations who've supported this conference. The circular economy is such an important thing for all of us to be understanding and applying in our work, in our industries, influencing government, thinking about how we connect in our supply chains with consumers, how we make and use things. It's really the only framework we have to safely transition our current global economies, local economies, national economies to a more sustainable future. And that requires us thinking about how we apply this framework. We're not going to, for example, get to net zero without a circular economy. We'll very quickly tackle those renewable energy emissions as we make that transition away from heavy carbon intensive energy sources to more sustainable ones, and we're going to quickly do that. But what's going to be left? Half the emissions which are embodied in food and the products, the way we make, use and dispose of them. So understanding what a circular economy can do to mitigate and reduce those carbon emissions is absolutely critical. And that's a really important role of circular economy. It's obviously based on three principles, which is design out waste and pollution, keep materials at their highest value for as long as possible, and regenerate natural systems. So this framework can also be used as we look at other global crises that we face, not just the carbon crisis, but our resource depletion. The world is running out of natural resources, and little wonder, because 90% of the things that we extract go straight into landfill. We have this take, make, waste approach. We pull it out of the ground, we use it for a very limited time, and then we throw it away. So that's totally unsustainable. And if you consider that 90% of the stuff we make is not used, then clearly we're heading for a bit of a disaster. So it's becoming a national security issue now for governments to be focusing on circular economy and prioritising circular economy. And that's why we're seeing 75%, 80% of the G20 nations and Australia's global partners transitioning to a circular economy. Because they know that if you're in the business of extracting resources, which Australia is, once we extract them and send them off to other jurisdictions, we're not going to get that back. We're not getting those critical minerals back into our economy. They will stay in those other economies of our trading partners, and they'll be used again and again in more sophisticated circular economies. We need to be extracting value. If you think there's more gold and silver in a ton of iPhones than a ton of ore from a gold or silver mine, it makes you stop and think. And if you're in the business of extracting gold and silver, then you'd be thinking, how can I be getting my hands on the critical minerals in iPhones and waste streams and e-waste? So it is an issue for Australia's resilience and other countries' resilience with changing supply chains. How do we make the most of these resources? And at the moment, we're sending our solar panels. We've got more solar panels than anyone. They're coming off our rooftops. They're heading to landfill. So how do we get our hands on and change our supply chains so we can get our hands on those resources. What are we going to do? What's the infrastructure we need to recycle them onshore? So these are the big questions that governments around the world are thinking about, and certainly in Australia we have a national framework being developed by the federal government. There's an advisory group, the Circular Economy Advisory Group, Ministerial Advisory Group, which I'm on with others, and we've made quite a lot of recommendations, including, and I'll just quickly mention, the Productivity Commission review in Australia. Clearly, if we're starting to value waste streams, then we really need to be thinking about our consumption model. How do we actually correctly value items that are made from virgin products, and how do we correctly value those coming out of that are secondary resources and put in place the make them more available for use at an affordable rate. So the Productivity Commission is going to be thinking about that, and I do also want to mention the Nature Positive Summit that's happening next week. This is a global summit that New South Wales and the federal government are hosting, and this is really important and totally connected to the new economy that we're trying to build, that's going to tackle the issues of this conference, which is climate, resource depletion, and the crisis that faces us with carbon. So nature needs to be valued correctly. And at the moment, we don't value our natural assets to their full extent. We don't consider those value points when we're pulling together business models, and we need to start to do that. So this opportunity with the conference today, coupled with the conference next week, which is really going to look at that regenerative piece, is really important. And I know a lot of you are experts, world-leading experts, and Australian experts in thinking about the nutrients and the resources that flow through our circular economy, in a circular economy. And your efforts with your organisations and research organisations is really, really critical to Australia's transition. We don't have all the answers yet, and we do need to work together in collaborative ways, perhaps that we've never worked on before. We need to understand the flows of materials coming into Australia, and we also need to understand how we get rid of those things that are not useful, and what's those alternatives. So research and technology are going to play a really critical role in this transition to a circular economy. I'll quickly say that the federal government's framework is under development. As I mentioned before, there's a Ministerial Advisory Group which I'm on, and we did make a series of recommendations. You can see them. They were released in an interim report on the 24th of April this year, and the final report is getting completed now by DQ with the Minister, and we hope to see some of those recommendations coming out. They will be extensive, and as countries participating in the circular economy understand, we need to start to place the emphasis on getting rid of toxic things out of our economy, replacing them with more sustainable solutions, creating new businesses and industries. So it's going to be a really exciting time in Australia for new business models to be emerging. How do we actually keep these waste streams locally and leverage some of that $15 billion, for example, that's available through the National Reconstruction Fund federally, and there's other pots of money coming forward through Remade and Made in Australia. So how do we participate with that in our industries? And we also hope to see out of the recommendations is tougher guidelines around design and what's in products. I note that in Europe, for example, critical minerals in batteries, in black mass, so when you melt down batteries, it forms a black mass, and Europe has just declared black mass as a hazardous waste. It's done that so it can keep it on shore, because it understands that while Europe and other countries around the world don't have all the technologies we need yet to recycle those critical minerals out of that black mass, the black mass itself is a really critical stock of those critical minerals. So we're starting to see countries around the world take tougher action and put responsibility, extended producer responsibility on organisations making things. And in Europe, when it comes to batteries, it's not just making them. If you distribute them, if you are in that supply chain in a substantial role, then you too will face product stewardship responsibilities. So we're going to start to see these rules and carrot sticks and tambourines, I like to call them, coming to support Australia's transition to a circular economy. And so I'm super excited about the conference and being here today and being among all of you. Sean, I might step forward and introduce our next speaker, if you're... No, you're going to do that. Okay, see, that's why I had to check. So thank you so much. We've got some interesting events today. You'll have seen the agenda. I'm going to be focusing on a bit of a workshop around circular economy. It's going to be broad and also looking at circular economy in place. How do we create more place-based circularity? But you've got some great choices in things to attend today, so I'll come back in a second to do the panel.
Thank you, Lisa. So she will give us her own way of the advisory working group for the New South Wales government, federal government for the circular economy. So she has a workshop today, 11:30. So please join her workshop so you will get to know more detail of what's our strategy in the government level. Also, she is organizing the Australian Circular Economy Conference next week, 10th of October. So you can have an online, this is just the online conference, so you can have a more detail of the Australia, the circular economy future and direction. So that's she's also proud of our implementation of the circular economy. Also, we have next speaker, Professor Peter Wire, Dean of the Faculty of Engineering and IT at UTS. So please join me in welcoming her opening speech.
It's really wonderful to be here. So I would like to start by acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation and pay respects to elders past and present. I think we have a lot to learn from their careful custodianship of this land and the insights that they bring to sustainable management of the lands and the waters of this beautiful place. I recognise and acknowledge the important role that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people play within our community and will continue to play in our community as we explore important topics like the circular economy. So welcome everyone, esteemed colleagues and honoured guests to the 2024 Circular Economy for Climate and Environment Conference hosted here at UTS. It's really wonderful to have you here today as we explore this vitally important topic. We are gathered here today to understand the importance of sustainable production and the regeneration and reuse of materials and products. And UTS and the Faculty of Engineering and Information Technology are deeply committed to progressing this research agenda and to progressing an agenda that has an impact for society. I've been at UTS for about 18 months now, and one of the things that I recognise about this university is its commitment to making change and to undertaking work that is translatable. And what I recognise with the people in the room is that commitment extends to all of you, and it's really exciting to have you here to be involved in these conversations. As a Dean of a faculty, it's been a while since I've been to a conference in my own discipline, and I was reflecting this morning on what I miss about that. This idea that we come together, that we share ideas, that we learn. Every time I go to a conference, I learn something new, no matter how experienced we are. It's bringing together that collective knowledge, sharing the ideas, being open. I have been witness to collaborations that emerge out of conferences like this, important outcomes that can happen from conferences like this. And I really encourage everyone in the room to be, thinking about what might come, what can we do as we gather to be involved today and tomorrow in this important conversation. So we're really committed, deeply committed to advancing the principles of sustainable development here at UTS and that circular economy approach to tackling important issues in climate change and other global challenges beyond that as well. As researchers, educators and innovators, we all have a responsibility to lead the way in developing platforms that minimise waste while maximising resource efficiency. And here at UTS we are home to a diverse array of dedicated experts who are tackling these complex challenges. From designing sustainable materials to developing smart technologies that enhance recycling processes, our research is at the forefront of creating systems that support more sustainable or support a more sustainable and resilient future. Yet we don't do that alone. We do that in collaboration with colleagues from across this room, from across the nation and from across the world. And I think it's that cross-disciplinary, multidisciplinary approach that is very important to what we do. We're not just looking at engineering and information technology solutions. We're looking at design, social sciences, the importance of business and understanding the economics of the circular economy so that we can address not just the technical issues and challenges, but to consider the social and economic implications of circular practices. And this is something we're firmly committed to here at UTS, and I think we need to be having more conversations about as we progress this agenda. Looking forward, from a UTS perspective, we're excited to be expanding our research initiatives in this area. We're looking at, for example, digital twin technologies, data-driven sustainability models, and innovative recycling practices. We're dedicated to building partnerships with university and industry leaders, and as well as community organisations, so that we are progressing that agenda around research translation. Finally, and I think I've already said this, this is why conferences like this are vitally important. To engage in knowledge exchange, learning and idea generation. Today I encourage you all to actively engage in discussions, to share your insights and to explore opportunities for collaboration together, and that's working together on shared goals. We can drive forward the vision for the circular economy, where sustainability is not just an ideal, but it becomes a reality. So thank you all for being here today and for your commitment to making a difference. Let's make this conference a platform for inspiration, innovation and actionable ideas that will shape the sustainable future for generations to come. Thank you very much for having me here this morning.
Thank you, Professor Peter Wyatt. This is very inspiring talk. She'd like to emphasize the cross-disciplinary and multidisciplinary collaboration, so we can work together and then make this circular economy happen to tackle the climate change. So we have a next speaker, Dr. Darren Sounder, Deputy Chief Scientist from Office of the Chief Scientist and Engineer, who is the very strong sponsor of this conference. Please join me in welcoming his talk.
Thanks very much, Sean, and I'll keep this brief because I know you will get on with the actual conference and hear the content. And I should point out that my title is Deputy Chief Scientist and Engineer, and Hugh, the Chief Scientist and Engineer, gets very upset if you went off the engineering part, so I think that's important. Look, thanks for the opportunity to say a few quick words. We're very pleased to support this conference. The work that you will all be talking about in this conference crosses over much of the work that we do in the Office of the Chief Scientist and Engineer, and Thomas, my colleague, is going to speak a little bit more in detail about that later. We not just support conferences like this, we spend a lot of time doing industry development, we spend a lot of time supporting research, particularly research commercialisation, and we also spend a lot of time doing in-depth reviews of wicked problems that exist out there in society. And I think it's a really interesting thing to think about, that the work in our office kind of cuts across many of the different topics that you'll be talking about in this conference. Because while there are huge opportunities in circular economy, there are significant challenges. And we see the end result of some of those challenges. We're doing a large body of work at the moment on what's happening with asbestos and recycled construction material. And so while it is important that we do this with them, we have to make sure that we don't cause bigger problems in the process that we have to solve down the track. And I think there's three really important points about that. And we've heard about collaboration and the importance of collaboration, and I would add my strong support to that notion that we won't get there by doing it any other way than through collaboration. And we will really not get there either without the application of technology in science and engineering, and that is how we're going to solve some of these problems. It really is a huge challenge, bringing a lot of the science and technology that exists in places like UTS and elsewhere, bringing it out into the world, bringing it out into startups, scale-ups, and into bigger industry. And the last point I'd like to leave you on, and I think it's a really important one, is to not forget that science and engineering, it doesn't exist outside of society. And a lot of the technology we're talking about also brings with it significant challenges, and I would really impress on everybody in the room the need to remember really the onus on us to bring along the community with us when we start to drive out some of these technologies. There's a real danger in losing our social license to operate if we don't help the community understand what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it. So I think just a little note there to maybe drive some stronger engagement with our friends in the social sciences and not just focus on engineering and technology. Having said all of that, I wish you a very successful conference. Come along and listen to Thomas. He'll tell you a lot more about what we do in our office later today. And I'll leave it at that, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. So it's very impressive to mention about the collaboration, also research translation supported by the New South Wales government, also social scientists. It's not only about technology, but we have to try to tackle a lot of regulatory policy as well as social scientist related area. So this is all about our opening. Now it's time to open for our plenary session, so we can go more in depth our knowledge and skill and discuss further. So let me invite Lisa. She will moderate our first plenary session. So please join me in welcoming her session.